This story is based on a true event. In the year 1863, Abraham Lincoln made a declaration that all black slaves would be granted freedom. But in Louisiana, there was still one place where 3.5 million slaves remained in bondage. These slaves were forced to work in cotton fields, picking and processing cotton from dawn to dusk. And the one who ruled over them was a man named Senator John. Among these slaves was a man named Peter. Peter was skilled in metalwork. He was a blacksmith. One day, as he sat in his home with his family, praying to God with faith and hope, two men suddenly arrived at his doorstep. They ordered Peter to come with them, but Peter refused. He didn't want to leave his family behind. But these men were merciless. They beat him brutally and even pointed a gun at his wife. They threatened, "If you don't come with us, we'll kill your wife." Left with no choice, Peter was forced to sit in a wagon full of other slaves. They began transporting him through a dense forest on a journey to another place. It took them a full 2 weeks to reach their destination. Here, Peter finds himself surrounded by countless other black slaves, all of them working tirelessly on railway tracks. The condition of these slaves is absolutely miserable, and now Peter is forced to work alongside them. As Peter works with the other slaves, he quickly realizes just how cruelly they are treated. One of the slaves tells him about a man named Jim, the so-called master of this place. Jim is the one in charge, forcing all the slaves to work under his command. He's extremely ruthless. If anyone disobeys him, he kills them without hesitation. The slaves are pushed so hard that by evening they can barely stand on their feet. And once the sun sets, their hands and feet are tied and they're locked away together in one place. Groaning and crying out in pain, Peter asks the others, "Don't you miss your families?" They respond, "We do miss them, but what's the point? We can remember whoever we want, but we'll never get out of here. This is where we'll all die." But Peter still has faith in God. He believes that if not today, then someday, by God's mercy, he'll escape this place and reunite with his family again. The next day, while Peter is working alongside the other slaves, he overhears two guards talking. They mention that Abraham Lincoln has officially ordered the freedom of all slaves, and very soon everyone will be set free. Just then, one of the guards notices that the bread prepared by a slave that day wasn't made properly. Enraged, he begins beating the slave mercilessly. Peter is deeply disturbed by what he sees and stares at the guard with anger in his eyes. The guard notices Peter's glare and calls him over. He is about to shoot Peter when the master of the camp, Jim, steps in and stops him. Jim orders the guard not to kill Peter. That night, as Peter sits with the other slaves, Jim comes outside and speaks directly to him. He says, "I am your God. You are my dog. You're only alive because I allow it." Peter responds boldly, "Then I should be fed the same food your dog gets." This means that Peter and all the other slaves are being given food worse than what even Jim's dog eats. The next day, when Peter heads to work, Jim tries to scare him by setting his dog on him. But the dog doesn't harm Peter and eventually leaves him alone. During lunch, Peter quietly tells one of his fellow slaves that Abraham Lincoln has issued an order to free all the slaves. He explains that many slaves are heading toward Baton Rouge, which is about 5 days away from where they are. The path is filled with swamps and marshes, but if they can make it there, the army will protect them. Hearing this, a few more slaves decide to escape with Peter. But for now, they all return to their work. Suddenly, while working, one of the men collapses and dies from exhaustion. Peter is ordered to carry the dead body to another location. When he gets there, the guards prepare to shoot him, but Peter fights back. He attacks the guards, kills them, and makes his escape. A few other slaves manage to escape with him, while most of the others are tragically shot down by the guards. Only 3 slaves manage to escape with Peter. Now the 4 of them run deep into the forest, heading toward a nearby swampy pond, one that's infested with deadly crocodiles. Meanwhile, Jim is chasing them with his men and a pack of vicious hunting dogs. Peter and his companions realize they have no choice left. If they want to survive, they must jump into the crocodile-infested waters. Peter and 2 of his companions take the risk and leap into the pond, but the 4th man freezes in fear. Just then, Jim's dogs catch up to him and brutally attack. Moments later, Jim arrives and kills the terrified slave himself. Peter and the remaining 2 manage to cross the dangerous swamp safely. Once they make it to the other side, the 3 of them agree to split up and go in different directions. That way, Jim and his men won't be able to catch them all at once. Peter keeps running and eventually reaches a house. He notices clothes hanging out to dry and quickly steals some. He uses a piece of cloth to wrap around his injured leg. But just then the little girl from the house sees him and starts ringing a bell to raise the alarm. Jim, who is nearby searching for Peter, hears the bell and rushes toward the house. Once again, Peter has to run for his life. He quickly dives into a nearby swamp, the same one filled with crocodiles, and hides beneath the water. Jim arrives and looks into the pond. Seeing the crocodiles, he assumes there's no way Peter could have gone in and survives. Convinced, he leaves the area. After Jim leaves, Peter starts to climb out of the water, but suddenly a crocodile attacks him and drags him back into the pond. Peter fights back with everything he has, managing to kill the crocodile, but he ends up severely wounded in the process. Now in intense pain, Peter struggles to survive the night in the jungle. The next morning, he covers his entire body with mud because he knows Jim and his hunting dogs are still searching for him. By masking his scent with mud, the dogs won't be able to track him. In that wounded state, Peter begins his journey once again, determined to reach his family as soon as possible. Despite his injuries, Peter keeps moving forward until he comes across a wooden platform in the forest. There, he lights a fire and heats up his knife. He uses the hot blade to cauterize his wounds, trying to prevent the infection from spreading through his body. Nearby, he finds a wooden boat, which he plans to use for the next part of his journey. But before he sets off, he collects some honey from a beehive, something to eat in case he gets hungry along the way. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Peter's wife. A man approaches her and tells her that her husband, Peter, has been sent away and won't be coming back. He threatens her, saying that if she doesn't agree to come work at a new place, they'll kill her son. With no choice, Peter's wife agrees to go with them. The man tells her he'll return soon to take her. Back in the forest, Peter decides to leave the boat and continue his journey on foot. Along the way, he runs into one of his old companions, another escaped slave who, like Peter, has been hiding from Jim, his men, and their vicious hunting dogs. The two men want to stay alive at any cost, but soon they hear the barking of Jim's dogs nearby. Realizing the dogs are getting closer, Peter finds an onion and tells his companion they should rub it on their bodies to mask their scent. His companion refuses, but Peter goes ahead and covers himself with the onion. With no time left, the two start running again. But they know the dogs will catch up any minute, so they quickly find a place to hide. Peter's companion climbs up a tree to hide, but Jim's dogs catch his scent and start barking at the branches. Jim orders him to come down, but the man refuses. He doesn't want to give up or become a slave again. He chooses to defy Jim, so Jim shoots and kills him. Jim is desperate to find Peter at any cost, but since Peter had rubbed onion all over his body, the dogs can't track his scent. Frustrated and unable to locate him, Jim and his men eventually leave the area. Once they're gone, Peter comes out of hiding and continues his journey. After wandering through the forest all day, he finds himself back at the same house where he had once stolen clothes. He notices the house is still lit up. Carefully stepping inside, Peter finds some food left behind. While inside, he sees a young black girl, likely a servant who worked at the house. He takes her outside with him, but suddenly one of Jim's men appears and holds Peter at gunpoint. The girl Peter had tried to help dies in the chaos, but Peter manages to grab the man's gun, kill him, and escape once again. Jim's hunting dogs are still on his trail, so Peter fights back and kills them too. After running for the entire day, Peter finally makes it far away from that deadly place. Peter eventually reaches a place where many people are lying injured. The sounds of gunfire and explosions echo all around him. He quickly realizes that a battle is going on nearby. Just then, Jim arrives on horseback. He's about to kill Peter, but suddenly a gunshot rings out from behind, and Jim is shot dead. The bullet came from a group of soldiers, black soldiers. They are part of the army fighting for freedom. They rescue Peter and take him to a nearby camp where many other wounded people are being treated. Peter is given proper medical care. Once he recovers completely, he is brought before an officer. Peter tells him everything, how he was tortured, how he was sold from one place to another like an object. The officer explains that they are in the middle of a war to free all black people from slavery. He then asks Peter to join their cause and fight alongside them. Without hesitation, Peter agrees to join the fight. At the army camp, Peter is reunited with one of his companions, the same man who had escaped with him. He's injured, but alive. Peter is overjoyed to see him again. A few days later, some officials arrive at the camp. Peter is asked to share his story, to tell the world about the cruelty slaves are subjected to. In response, Peter removes his shirt. His back is covered in deep permanent scar, the brutal result of being whipped repeatedly over time. The wounds are still clearly visible. A photograph is taken of Peter's back, so the entire world can see the horrific abuse that slaves endure. The next day, Peter joins the army, Abraham Lincoln's army, on the battlefield. Their mission is to free every remaining black slave still held in captivity. Peter and his fellow soldiers fight with immense courage and strength. Together they win the war. Abraham Lincoln's army, now including Peter, defeats the oppressors and sets the slaves free. After the war, Peter finally returns to the one place that matters most, his home. There, he is joyfully reunited with his family, and the long-awaited moment of freedom, justice, and love finally becomes real. Peter's wife is still there. She never left. She had purposely injured her own hand so she wouldn't be taken away to another place. Peter is overwhelmed with joy as he reunites with his family. He thanks God from the bottom of his heart. Through it all, Peter had never lost his faith in God. That faith gave him the strength to keep going, and it was that strength that finally brought him back home, into the arms of the people he loved.